I'm Chevy, and today let's discuss my first game designs. Hello friends, welcome to the shed. It's Thursday, Gaming Thursday, and back on Tuesday, I asked some questions on Twitter. Wait, you follow me on Twitter, right? I mean, I put my Twitter thing like right here, every video. Follow me on Twitter. I talk about the show on there, and you can interact with me in real time because I get notices. Anyway, I asked the question, what do you want me to talk about on the shed? And one of the questions was great for today, for what had been Tabletop Thursday last Skok. But anyway, the question comes from Gareth H. Graham, who is from South Africa. Thanks, Garrett. You might be my only South African fan, but maybe you've shared my channel with your friends and they're my fans too. If so, hello South Africa. If not, okay, so Gareth said your first game designs. What were my first game designs? I actually still own my first card game. I do not own my first role-playing game or board game. I remember my first role-playing game I designed when I was 10-ish, 10 or 11, and it was called Battletech. Robotech. Because I found the name in like an advertisement in an ancient Archie comic and just assumed that Robotech didn't exist anymore. I was wrong, obviously. But that's okay. I remember the game. It was a role-playing game about animalistic anthropomorphic robots in space. Essentially, Earth was depleted. We scattered, found some distant galaxy where the last two remaining Earth scientists found some habitable planets and figured out a way to transplant their brains and thus their consciousness into some of their semi-sentient robots that they brought along with them, which happened to be animal-like. And after a few generations, the robots became capable of replicating themselves and then creating new robots based on other Earth animals, and soon we had a whole galaxy full of anthropomorphic robots. It was fun. I wrote like a bunch of different books. My first board game was when I was in grade school, like 7th grade. We read The Hobbit, and then we had to do like a project of our choosing on The Hobbit, and I chose to do a board game. And it was a roll and move type game. I think it involved rolling. I'm not positive. I vaguely remember the shape of the board was not square. It had some twisting paths, and it had story elements thrown throughout. I remember I hand drew the cover of the Hobbit animated movie from like the 70s or 80s on a white shirt box, and that was the container. But this is my first card game. And this is timely because the story behind this card game is exactly 20 years old. 20 years ago, at Origins 96, I was working for a company called United States Playing Cards. United States Playing Cards had a game called X-Files. X-Files was a collectible card game, and I ended up working for them that summer at various shows around the country, demoing X-Files and helping them on future sets and that sort of thing. And at Origins 96, that was my first convention with them. I was directly across the aisle from a small little booth where a man sat for most of the convention without being noticed and with just a rack of some games. At that time, Origins had open gaming 24 hours a day, and it was part of the main hall. It was like cut off, and then over here was, you could still see the booths, is what I'm trying to say. So Saturday night, open gaming, playing some games, guy comes over with a briefcase, sets it down, and it was the guy that had been across the aisle from me all week. And he opens up a case, says, who wants to play some games, and pull out his games. And we played games that night. Everybody had a blast. And Sunday morning, he sold out of all of his product, and offered free shipping to anybody who paid there, and that was the birth of a company called Cheap Ass Games, and the man was James Ernest. And as I played James Ernest's games, I commented that I could do this. I could make these games. Cheap Ass Games was always about printing games inexpensively. So it was black and white art on colored paper. The games included no bits. If you needed dice, you just scavenged them from other games that you already owned. If you needed pawns or markers, none of that came with the games. It was a novel idea at the time. And I thought, man, the games weren't complex. They were pretty simple, straightforward games, but they were fun, and the art was fun, and I thought, man, I could do that. So later that year, I'm at a convention, and there is a box of business cards from my boss. His name is David May, and I've somewhat got in touch with him. I grabbed a bunch of his games, or a bunch of his business cards, and I said, I'm going to make a game about you, and I'm going to do it on the back of your business cards, because they were shuffleable. And so I did, and this is it. This is the game. It's called David May, the card game. Dave has a very distinct personality, and that was the idea in this game. He also bought this really strange, like, hat that, at that Origins, that was like a Cat in the hat, but it was orange and black with alien heads on it, and he wore that a bit, so this became part of the game. The game is essentially two-player Lunch Money. We were playing a lot of Lunch Money that show, and I wanted to play it once I got home, but I really only had one friend, so I made a two-player version. That's essentially what this game is, and this has been played a lot. A lot. It's a very simple math game. You've got plus cards and minus cards, and you take the difference in damage. If you go to 0, you lose. If you get to 27, you win. 27 because that was Dave's favorite number, because I asked him. I hand drew all the cards. I'm not going to be able to lean in and show you these, or it'll be out of focus. But, you know, you can imagine here's two of the same card, and so they have slightly different artwork because they're all hand-drawn. And I never did bother to try to do a digital version of this game. I probably should at some point, and I might try to re-theme it. It has some phrases instead of artwork on some of the cards. Some of the cards have special powers. Some of the cards I never finished because I just never came up with a name for them. But we used to play this all the time. My friends and I played the crap out of this game. It is goofy and zany and not really worth publishing. But it was a start to something, a start to a fascination of mine with designing games of this caliber. Lightweight, fun, silly card games that can be played with a group of friends. So, from there, I tried my hand at essentially redesigning lots of other games. I tried to take bits and pieces of mechanics from various games and combine them, until eventually I started to fall into a rhythm where I found the tool set that I liked. I liked this part of these games, this part of these games, and that became my style. And I kept working at it until I could make games that people actually wanted to play. But as far as first games goes, I'm still kind of proud of this. I've kept it all these years. We still play it from time to time. Dave made the card game. That's it. So, I hope you enjoyed today's content. A little different. Please leave me a comment below what you think about game design. When was your first game design? Or have you never dipped your toes in the water because you're scared? Ask questions if you have any questions about game design. Or maybe you're working on something and you want to know how to fix something or make something work better. Whatever. I love talking about game design. I appreciate all the comments. You guys have been really amazing about keeping the comments alive. I appreciate all the thumbs ups, and I appreciate all the shares. Thank you very much for sharing my videos. I will see you tomorrow.
Hey Doc, wait! I want to ask you something.
Today's random fact comes from georgewashington.si.edu. What were George Washington's teeth made of? Over the years, Washington wore several sets of false teeth. Even though many people believe today that these teeth were made out of wood, there is no proof that he ever had wooden teeth. His dentures were made of many things. They were often a combination of human teeth, ooh, animal teeth, ooish, and ivory. Could you imagine having like dental, somebody else's teeth, like probably a dead person. That's just weird.